All right, on to a new section, 6-7. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I hope you watched the pre-lesson. It's just crazy to me that the real world slash electricians actually use a number that doesn't exist to calculate things that do exist. Think about that. However, here is the meat and potatoes. The letter I equals the square root of a negative 1, and I squared equals negative 1. You got to keep that in mind. Now, what do we think about right here? Well, we just think, hey, we got to think of it as, just like you guys, again, you got to watch the pre-lesson for this stuff to make sense. What did I just do? I took the I out. So really, after you've done 10,000 of these, the first thing you're going to do is just think of it as I square root of 25, and you don't even take this step. But this is what's really going on. So I'll show this step on this particular case, but we don't need to show this step every single time. When you see the square root of a negative, first thing you do is take the I out. And then what is the square root of 25? 5. So that would be 5i. I know it's a crazy concept, but that's what imaginary numbers are. So again, what do? We take the I out, and that can't go any farther, so that was pretty simple. How about this one? Take the I out, and now we go, hey, wait a minute, the square root of 50. I've seen this before. This is not my first rodeo. So I got a square root of 25, which is 5, so I'm going to rewrite it as 5i square root of 2. And somebody might go I5 square root of 2. It's not wrong. It's just not, it just doesn't sound right. This is the proper way to write it, okay? Now, big temptation. Do these two negatives cancel? No, this negative does not instantaneously all of a sudden make this imaginary number not imaginary. This is an imaginary number, so you have to ignore that darn negative. So we're going to think about this, take the I out, and then bring the negative along for the ride. You see that negative just drops along with the problem. And then the square root of 20 turns into 4 and 5. And so I got this, 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 and this. Square root of 4 is 2. So if I package all this together, I get negative 2i square root of 5. On to this one. This one, again, you take the I out, and you're left with that. So this is just 2i times 3 would be 6i. Some of these are pretty simple. Now, a lot of students want to multiply this by this and make this the square root of 36. Nope. You got to take care of this imaginary number first, I square root of 4, times, now you got to take care of this imaginary number second, and you get I square root of 9. Now watch this. What's I times I? Well, that'd be I squared. And what's I squared? Negative 1. So this is negative 1 times, now watch this. What's the square root of 4? 2. What's the square root of 9? 3. What does that all equal? Negative 6. Now let's go back up here. If you'd have multiplied negative 4 times negative 9, you'd have gotten positive 36, and you'd have gotten positive 6, which is not correct. You got to handle these imaginary numbers individually. That's just a rule. All right, this one right here, 6i times 6i, I mean, all it's saying is multiply it by itself. So I get 36i squared, which is the same thing as 36 times negative 1, which is just negative 36. Same scenario here, but now I'm not going to show my work. I'm going to do more mentally. What's I squared? Well, I squared. What happens when you square a square root? The root flies off. What is this? Well, it's negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. How about this one? Again, mental math. 5 squared, 25. I squared, negative 1. Square root of 3 squared, root flies off. What do you get? Negative 75. See, these aren't too bad. Now we got a negative 3 times, well, itself, because it's squared, which is 9. And then I get I squared, which is negative 1, negative 9. So you got to do these in little mini parts, little mini bites. So what's a negative times a negative? Or you could think what's negative 2 times itself? Well, that'd be 4. And then you get I squared, which is negative 1. If you take the square root of 7 and square it, you get 7. Multiply all those together, you get negative 28. Now we've got the letter I in the denominator. Okay, it's going to cause some problems. Remember, I is the same thing as a square root of a negative 1. So we have a radical in the basement. We can't have that. And see, I'm going to show you this a couple different ways. I like the first way I'm going to show you because it just seems a little cleaner. Don't worry about the 3. We don't care about that so much. We want the radical out of the denominator. So we're going to multiply this by I and I. Now, why would we do that? I'll show you. So in the numerator, we get 2I. In the denominator, we get 3I squared. Well, what's I squared? That's negative 1. So that'd be 2I all over negative 3. Remember, negative 1 times 3 would give us our negative 3. What's a way another student might try it? They might think of it like this and just say 3 square root of a negative 1. And then you go back to what maybe you're more comfortable with. And then when you square a square root, the roots fly off. So that would be 3 times negative 1, and then that'd be just 2I. See, this way is just a lot messier. And you'd get 2I all over negative 3. You get the same thing, it just takes a little bit longer. That's why I like this. Now on this one, again, there's a couple ways you could do it. So I'll show both ways. Student number 1 comes along and says, all right, I'm just going to stick with the program here and multiply it by itself, because I know the roofs are going to fly off, and that is true. And then you got the imaginary number up here, so you got to take the I out, so that'd be I square root of 2 times 6, which would be 6I square root of 2. And then check your oil. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3, so negative 3I square root of 2. A little bit more complex. And then student number 2 comes along, and what they do is they take the I out. So they go I square root of 2. See, now we have 2 radicals in the basement. We got the square root of negative 1, and we got the square root of 2. So we're going to need to multiply the I by itself. We're going to need to multiply the square root of 2 by itself. And that's what I'm going to have to multiply the numerator by as well. So here we go, bite-sized pieces. What's I times I? I squared. What's I squared? Negative 1. What happens when you square a square root? The roots fly off. And then just mash all that together, you get 6I square root of 2, which this is just negative 2, so 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3I square root of 2. Same answer, different strategy. I don't care which method you use, whatever you think's a little more comfortable for you. Now this one, a lot of students would immediately go, aha, I know I'm just going to multiply that by I, and that's going to get rid of it. But wait a minute, let's take a look at this a second. Couldn't we rewrite that as I squared of 7? The answer is, yep, all over 2I, and then the i's just cancel. And just by noticing that, that problem got pretty easy. So keep your eyes open. Don't turn into a little math robot. Sometimes there's little tricks. And math is wondering whether you're going to find them or not. So it's like a treasure hunt, you know. Call me a nerd. Don't care. It's fun. It's challenging. All right, I think that's it. Good luck on your homework assignment, guys. Page 39.